AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she excluded my daughter from the bridal party and then tried to guilt-trip me into reconsidering. This all started about 6 months ago when my sister, Emily, announced her wedding date. I was genuinely happy for her. She's always been close to me, and we grew up inseparable. I have a 7-year-old daughter, Lily, who has always been part of our family events and celebrations. Emily and I had even talked about the possibility of Lily being a flower girl or junior bridesmaid if the timing worked out. I was excited because Lily adores my sister and the feeling of being included in such an important day. But when Emily sent out the official wedding party invitations, Lily was not included. There were 5 bridesmaids, all of whom are Emily's adult friends, and no junior bridesmaid or flower girl role was offered to Lily. At first, I thought maybe Emily had a different vision or there simply wasn't room, so I didn't say anything right away. I was a little hurt, but didn't want to make a fuss. Then about 2 weeks later, Emily called me. She said she wanted to talk about the wedding party and why Lily wasn't included. According to her, the bridal party is an adult-only space because the wedding is going to be pretty formal and she didn't want to worry about managing kids during the ceremony and photos. She also mentioned that she felt Lily might get bored or restless, and she didn't want any distractions. I was stunned. I told her that Lily has attended plenty of formal events and is well-behaved, and that excluding her felt personal. I reminded Emily how much Lily looks up to her and was really excited to be a part of the day. Emily replied that it wasn't personal at all, that she just had to make decisions that fit her vision. Then, she said something that really stuck with me. "You're making this about Lily, but you're the one who has to get over it. The wedding is about me, not you or your kid." That stung. I tried to reason with her, suggesting maybe Lily could have a small role, like carrying the rings or handing out programs, but she shut that down quickly. I told her I was disappointed and that it felt like she was prioritizing her adult friends over family. After that, the calls and texts got tense. Emily accused me of creating drama and being selfish because I was upset about a small detail. She said that I was trying to make her wedding all about my daughter and me, and that she expected me to support her choices without complaint. I honestly felt hurt and betrayed. Emily and I have always been close, but now it felt like she didn't care about my feelings or my daughter's. I thought about whether I should just accept her decision for the sake of family harmony, but then I realized that if I went along with this, I'd be teaching Lily that she's not important enough to be included by her own aunt on such a big day. So, I told Emily I wasn't going to attend the wedding if Lily wasn't invited to be part of the bridal party or have any formal role. I told her that excluding Lily felt like a slap in the face, and I couldn't just pretend it didn't matter. Emily went ballistic. She called me selfish and said I was holding a grudge like a child. She said that if I refused to come, I was choosing to make the day about me and Lily instead of supporting my sister. Since then, the family has been split. Some of my relatives say I should just get over it and attend the wedding for Emily's sake. Others say Emily should have been more considerate. I feel like I'm caught between being the bad guy for standing up for my daughter and the good guy for trying to keep my kids' feelings intact. I haven't attended the wedding, and the last I heard, Emily isn't speaking to me. So, Reddit. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she excluded my daughter from the bridal party and then dismissed my feelings? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding after she demanded I pay for half of it. I, 32F, have always been close with my sister, Emily, 29F, but lately things have gotten pretty tense between us because of her upcoming wedding. This whole situation has been such a mess, and I'm honestly not sure if I'm the asshole or if she is. Emily got engaged about 6 months ago to her fiancé, Mark. They've been dating for a couple of years, and I've always liked him well enough. When they announced the engagement, I was genuinely happy for her and excited to help with the wedding plans. I even told her from the start that I wanted to be involved, but I'm not someone who's into big extravagant events, so I mentioned early on that I didn't want to be financially responsible for too much. At first, things were fine. Emily and Mark wanted a medium-sized wedding, around 100 guests, with a decent venue and some nice decorations. They talked about having the reception at this fancy local event space, which I was a little surprised by, because I thought it'd be more casual. But it was her day, so I just agreed to help however I could. That's when she dropped the bomb. She said the venue would cost around $10,000, and that between the two of them and me, the cost would be split 3 ways. I told her I didn't have that kind of money saved up. My job pays okay, but I live paycheck to paycheck for the most part and have student loans and other bills. I told her I was happy to help plan and assist in any way that didn't require me to put up thousands of dollars. Emily then said something that completely threw me. She claimed it was fair because I was the maid of honor and I was expected to cover half of the costs not covered by the couple. I tried to explain that I didn't think it worked that way. I've never been to a wedding where the maid of honor was asked to finance half the venue cost. Usually, the couple or the families cover that. She then started telling me that it's family tradition. In our culture, we're both from a tight-knit community where weddings are a huge deal, that the maid of honor and bridesmaids help with major expenses. She said I could host the wedding at my house instead to cut costs since I have a nice yard. I told her I don't have the space or resources for that kind of event, especially considering the number of guests. At this point, I started to feel like she was making demands rather than asking for help. I told her I wasn't comfortable paying anything close to $5,000 or more. I suggested she and Mark consider a smaller venue or reduce the guest list if money was tight. She said no, the guest list was non-negotiable because they wanted all their friends and family. The conversations got heated, and she started to accuse me of not supporting her or being selfish. She also said I was embarrassing her in front of our parents by refusing to step up. Our parents have stayed out of the money argument, but it's obvious they're disappointed in how things are going. After this, Emily stopped talking to me for about 2 weeks. When she finally reached out, she gave me an ultimatum. Either I pay half the venue cost, or she'd remove me as maid of honor and replace me with someone else. She said she didn't want drama ruining her big day. I feel awful because I want to support my sister, but I'm not in a financial position to pay for half of a $10,000 venue plus other expenses like dresses, travel, and the bridal shower. Plus, I feel like it's unreasonable to expect me to finance half the wedding when she and Mark are perfectly capable of paying for it themselves. I'm not even the one getting married. I ended up telling her that I would still be there for her in whatever capacity I could, but I could not pay for the venue or any large expenses. I suggested she ask other family members for help or rethink the scale of the wedding. She hasn't spoken to me since. Our parents have tried to mediate, telling me to compromise for the sake of family harmony, but I don't think it's fair to pressure me to pay that much. I'm also worried this is going to permanently damage my relationship with my sister, which breaks my heart. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to pay half the venue cost for my sister's wedding? Or is she being unreasonable expecting that from me? AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé live with me after she broke up with him and expected me to just take him in? So, this is going to be a bit of saga, but I'll try to keep it clear. I, 29F, have a younger sister, Emily, 26F, who has been dating this guy, Mark, 30M, for about 3 years. They were engaged for the last year. They've always had a rocky relationship, mostly because Mark has a very demanding job that makes him unavailable emotionally a lot of the time, and Emily is very sensitive and needy in ways that sometimes come off as clingy. I've never liked Mark much, honestly. He's arrogant, dismissive, and sometimes outright rude to me. Emily told me to get over it, and that he's a good guy once you get to know him. I tried to give him chances, but he never really made an effort. Still, I've always respected their relationship and kept my mouth shut because it's her life. Fast forward to 2 months ago, Emily calls me crying hysterically. She and Mark broke up. Apparently, Mark cheated on her multiple times and then blamed her for being too emotional. Emily was heartbroken, but insisted she was done and was going to focus on herself. Fine. Here's where it gets messy. A week after the breakup, Mark calls me out of the blue and says Emily told him he could stay with me for a bit since his apartment lease ended and he was between places. I told him that's not true. I hadn't agreed to anything. He says Emily asked him to come over and crash here until he got back on his feet. I texted Emily, who said, "Yeah, I said he could stay temporarily. He needs a place." I told her I wasn't comfortable with that, but she said she expected me to help. At this point, I want to clarify a few things about my living situation. I have a small one-bedroom apartment that I pay for entirely by myself. I work a demanding job and have a cat who hates strangers. I also have anxiety that worsens when my space is invaded unexpectedly. I told Emily that having Mark live here was not something I could do, especially given our past and my feelings about him. She got upset and said I was being selfish and not supporting her or her ex-fiancé, who is going through a tough time. She argued that I was family and should help. I tried to explain that Mark is not family, and I'm not obligated to take in someone I don't trust or want to live with. Mark, meanwhile, kept messaging me about moving in, saying he had no other options, and Emily was pushing him toward me because she was too overwhelmed. It felt like they were teaming up to guilt me into it. Then things escalated. Mark showed up unannounced at my apartment one evening, claiming he needed a place to crash for the night. I was furious and told him no. He said I was being cold and family should help family. I firmly told him to leave and blocked his number. Emily called me, furious, accusing me of abandoning her and Mark when they needed me most. She said I was ruining our sister bond and that if I wouldn't help, no one would. She even said she might cut me out of her life. That hurt, but I stood my ground. A mutual friend told me Emily has been telling people I kicked Mark out and refused to support her emotionally. I haven't confronted Emily directly since then, but the tension is palpable. Now, some of our family members think I'm the bad guy for not helping Mark during his rough patch. They say that even if I don't like him, I should be compassionate because he was part of the family for years. I feel like I'm being punished for having boundaries, but maybe I'm being unreasonable. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's ex-fiancé live with me after their breakup? Or should I have just swallowed my pride and helped him? AITA for refusing to apologize to my sister after she ruined my wedding and then expected me to just move on like nothing happened? This whole situation has been eating at me for months now, and I honestly don't know if I'm in the wrong here or if I'm justified in feeling how I do. I'm still really upset, and I need an outside perspective. So here's the background. I'm 29F, and my sister Emily is 26F. We've always had a pretty complicated relationship. Growing up, she was the baby of the family and a bit spoiled, while I was the responsible one who always had to keep everything together. We were close as kids, but started drifting apart in our teenage years due to a bunch of personal issues and different social circles. Still, I always tried to keep a polite relationship with her. Fast forward to last year. I got engaged to my fiancé, Mark. We've been together for about 5 years, and I always thought Emily would be happy for me. She said she was, but I honestly didn't realize just how complicated she felt about the whole thing until the wedding. I planned my wedding with Mark for almost a year. It was a medium-sized affair with about 80 guests. I was meticulous with everything because I wanted it to be perfect. The day was sunny, the venue was beautiful, and we were both super excited. Emily was a bridesmaid, and I gave her a lot of responsibilities to make her feel included, even though I was hesitant, because she's a bit flaky. I thought this would be a good way to mend things between us. Unfortunately, things did not go as planned. About a week before the wedding, Emily started acting really weird. She was distant, barely responded to messages, and when we spoke, she was curt and seemed distracted. I brushed it off as pre-wedding nerves or stress, but in hindsight, it was something else. On the day of the wedding, Emily showed up late to the bridal suite. When I asked her why, she just shrugged it off and said she got caught up with other bridesmaids. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it, so I let it slide. The ceremony went smoothly, but during the reception, things went downhill fast. Emily was visibly drunk way earlier than anyone else, stumbling and slurring her words. I told Mark and the wedding planner, and they tried to get her to calm down, but she ignored everyone. At one point, she grabbed the microphone during the speeches, interrupting the best man to make a weird, rambling toast that was mostly about her own personal struggles rather than celebrating us. The crowd was uncomfortable, and I was mortified. Mark was trying to handle it gracefully, but I could see he was frustrated. The worst part came after the reception, when Emily disappeared for a bit and then returned with a huge scratch on her arm, saying she had fallen off the venue staircase. Later, it came out that she had gotten into an argument with one of Mark's family members over something trivial, and she had stormed off the venue. I was so upset that my sister had basically hijacked the happiest day of my life. But the real kicker was what happened the next day. I confronted Emily about everything, asking why she had acted like that and how she thought it was okay to make my wedding about herself. She broke down and said she felt invisible growing up, that she resented me for always being the golden child who had everything handed to her, and that she was jealous of my relationship with our parents and with Mark. She expected me to forgive her immediately and told me I was being too sensitive and overreacting. She even said she thought I was being unfair because she didn't ruin the entire wedding and that everyone else seemed to have fun. I told her I needed space and I wasn't ready to forgive her yet. She got furious and said that if I didn't apologize to her for accusing her of ruining the wedding, she wouldn't speak to me anymore. That was a month ago. I've been ignoring her texts and calls because I'm still hurt and angry. Our parents have been pressuring me to reconcile, saying I should apologize to Emily for not understanding her feelings and for being harsh. But I don't know how I can apologize when she was the one who messed up such an important day and then expected me to just brush it off. I feel like she took advantage of my kindness and the effort I put into including her, and now she's trying to gaslight me into feeling like the bad guy. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to apologize to my sister when she was clearly the one who caused a scene at my wedding and then expected me to just move on without consequences? Or should I swallow my pride and try to make peace for the sake of family harmony? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she treated my mental health struggles? This is a long one, so bear with me. I'm a 29-year-old woman, and my sister is 32. We've never been super close, but I always thought we had a decent relationship. Recently, though, things have gotten really strained, and I'm struggling to figure out if I'm being unreasonable. A bit of background. I have struggled with anxiety and depression for most of my adult life. Over the past few years, it's been particularly bad, and I've been seeing therapists, taking medication, and trying to manage it as best I can. I've had some tough moments where I needed support, especially from family. My sister, let's call her Elle, has never really been sympathetic about mental health. She comes from a generation and a culture where mental health is seen as something you just get over or aren't trying hard enough to fix. She's very practical and no-nonsense, which can be good, but it's made her dismissive when I've tried to open up to her. A few years ago, I went through a severe depressive episode and had to take a leave from work. I told Elle about it, hoping for some understanding or even just a little kindness. Instead, she said things like, "You just need to stop feeling sorry for yourself. And everyone has problems. You can't just check out when things get hard." It was crushing because I thought she was my sister and would be there for me, but it felt like she was blaming me for being sick. Fast forward to this year. Elle got engaged to her longtime boyfriend, and she's been planning a big wedding. I tried to be supportive, ask questions, helped her with little things here and there. But the more involved I got, the more I felt like I was being pushed aside or ignored. When she officially invited me to the wedding, she included a note saying she hoped the wedding wouldn't be stressful for me since she knew I had emotional issues. I found that weird and a little patronizing. I responded politely, said I appreciated her concern and that I was working on managing my anxiety. Then came the big issue. About 2 months before the wedding, I had a panic attack and had to cancel plans to meet with my sister and her fiancé to discuss the seating arrangements. I messaged her to apologize and said I was feeling overwhelmed. She replied with, "You really need to get it together if you want to be part of the family, and that wedding planning isn't about your feelings, it's about making the day perfect for everyone else." That hurt a lot. I tried to explain how anxiety works, how sometimes it's not something I can just get over. She doubled down, saying I was being dramatic and selfish for expecting her to accommodate me. Around that time, I was offered a ticket to a mental health conference in another city that would be happening the same weekend as the wedding. It was a rare opportunity to connect with others going through similar things and learn more about managing my condition. I told Elle about it, and she said I should choose the wedding because family comes first. I told her that I understood, but that my mental health is crucial to me being able to function and be a part of family events in the future. She told me she was disappointed and didn't think I cared about her wedding. This spiraled into a huge argument where she accused me of using my mental health as an excuse to avoid the wedding and that I was being selfish. I ended up telling her that if she wasn't willing to respect my struggles, I couldn't be around her. I decided not to attend the wedding. I sent a message wishing her well and explaining that I hoped she could understand that this decision was about taking care of my mental health, not about punishing her. Her response was cold. She said I was making things worse and that I'd ruined our relationship forever. My parents are on her side, telling me I should put my family first and stop being so sensitive. Now, a few weeks after the wedding, I'm feeling isolated and guilty. Some mutual friends have reached out, saying they think I did what I needed to do, but others say I should have tried harder. Am I the asshole for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she treated me and for prioritizing my mental health? Could I have handled this better, or was I right to set this boundary? AITA for refusing to attend my brother's wedding after finding out my husband was uninvited behind my back. So for context, I, 31F, have one younger brother, Evan, 28M. We've always been close growing up, and even though we had the usual sibling arguments, I always saw him as my best friend. He's marrying his fiancée, Lily, 27F, next month. I was genuinely happy for them. I helped plan parts of their engagement party, went wedding dress shopping with Lily, and even offered to help with the rehearsal dinner because our parents live out of state. Now, my husband, Ryan, 34M, and I have been married for 3 years, together for 6. Evan and Ryan have always had a somewhat tense relationship. They're both opinionated and stubborn, and they clashed early on when Evan thought Ryan was too serious and Ryan thought Evan was too reckless. Still, they've been civil at family gatherings. Not best friends, but polite. A few weeks ago, Evan called me and said he wanted to talk about the wedding guest list. I assumed he needed help finalizing seating or something. Instead, he said, "I need you to understand that we've decided not to invite Ryan." I thought he was joking, but no, he was dead serious. He said Ryan makes things uncomfortable, that he doesn't vibe with our friend group, and that Lily doesn't like how he talks about politics and work all the time. Apparently, during a family barbecue a few months ago, Ryan had gotten into a mild argument with one of Lily's friends about environmental policy. Nobody yelled or cursed, but must have stuck with her. I told Evan flat out that I wasn't coming if my husband wasn't invited. Evan said, "This isn't about you. It's about what Lily and I want for our day." I said, "Then you're choosing to exclude your sister's husband from your wedding, and that's on you." He accused me of being dramatic and trying to make his wedding about myself. I said, "You're the one making it personal." We hung up angry. The next day, Lily texted me a long message basically saying she and Evan don't want negative energy at their wedding and that she hoped I could understand their boundaries. She added, "We'd still love for you to come alone so your parents don't feel awkward." That last part stung. It made me feel like they were inviting me out of obligation, not love. I told my parents what happened. My mom tried to stay neutral, saying, maybe Ryan could just skip it this one time, so there's no drama. My dad, on the other hand, was furious. He said if they exclude family, he's not going either. That set off a firestorm. Evan accused me of turning everyone against him. He said Dad is punishing him because of me. I told him that's not true. Everyone's just reacting to his own choices. He started guilt-tripping me, saying, "I thought you'd be there for me no matter what." Then my mom called again and said Lily was crying because everyone is mad at her, and that maybe I could apologize to smooth things over. I asked, apologize for what? For expecting my husband to be treated like part of the family. Fast forward to last weekend. Evan showed up at my house unannounced. He said he missed me and wanted to talk in person. We sat down, and he said he still loves me, but that Lily is uncomfortable around Ryan, and you can't force someone to like your partner. I told him I don't expect them to like Ryan, but excluding him is disrespectful. Evan said, "It's our wedding. We can invite whoever we want." I replied, "Then I can choose not to come." He got upset again and said I was ruining the family dynamic. I said, "No, you are by deciding one person doesn't deserve to be included because your fiancé doesn't like how he talks about politics." Ryan, for what it's worth, has stayed out of it. He told me he's fine not going, that he doesn't want me to be in the middle. But I can tell it bothers him. He's always tried to be polite at family events, and he doesn't deserve this. Since then, family group chats have basically exploded. My aunt called me and said, "It's only one day, just go alone." My cousin, who had her own drama at her wedding, texted, "You're right to stand your ground. If they can exclude your husband this easily, what next?" Now it's gotten to the point where Evan and Lily are saying I've created tension in the family, and that my refusal to attend is childish. My mom begged me to just be the bigger person and come anyway because she doesn't want more family division. But honestly, I feel like if I go alone, I'm telling my husband his presence is optional in my family. And that's not something I'm okay with. It's not even about weddings anymore. It's about respect. If I give in now, I'm telling everyone that my marriage can be dismissed whenever it's inconvenient. Evan and I were always close, and I thought he respected me. But this feels like a line I can't cross. To add insult to injury, Lily posted something vague on her Instagram story about toxic energy not being welcome at sacred events. Several of our mutual friends saw it and immediately messaged me asking if it was about Ryan. I didn't respond, but that was humiliating. Last night, Evan texted me again saying, "I hope you reconsider. It would break my heart if my only sister wasn't at my wedding." I just stared at the message for a while. He doesn't see that he's the one who caused this. Now, everyone's split. Some relatives think I'm right to take a stand. Others think I'm being prideful and should just suck it up. Ryan says he'll support whatever I decide, but I can tell he'd feel awful if I went without him. Part of me wants to go, just to avoid regret. It's my brother's wedding, after all. But the other part of me feels that showing up would mean accepting that my husband is an outsider in my own family. And that's a precedent I can't stomach. So here I am, torn between my brother and my husband, trying to figure out if standing up for my marriage makes me an A** hole, or if refusing to attend makes me selfish. AITA for refusing to go to my brother's wedding because my husband was uninvited? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's family-only wedding because my husband and son weren't invited? So, my sister, 26F, is getting married in December, and I, 29F, recently found out that neither my husband, 31M, nor a 5-year-old son are invited. I'm honestly still reeling from the way she told me and how she tried to justify it. For context, I'm the oldest of 3 siblings. My sister, Lily, is the middle child, and our brother, Jake, is 23. Growing up, Lily and I had a pretty typical sister relationship. We fought, we made up, we were close, but also wildly different. I was the more responsible, quiet one, while she was always dramatic, emotional, and wanted attention. It wasn't malicious, it's just who she is. I got married 5 years ago to my husband, Eric. He's calm, kind, and very grounded. The kind of person who can handle any situation with grace. Everyone in my family likes him, or so I thought. Lily dated her fiancé, Ryan, for about 2 years, and they got engaged last spring. Everyone was happy for her, but I'll admit she's been kind of nightmare during wedding planning. She wants her day to be perfect, which is understandable, but she's been controlling, bossy, and even rude to vendors, our mom, and me. Anyway, about 3 weeks ago, I got a fancy envelope from her wedding invitation. It said family-only ceremony. I assumed that men extended family weren't invited, which made sense because she said she wanted something intimate. But when I opened the RSVP, it only had my name printed on it. Not in family, not +1, just Emily Carter. I called her, thinking it was a mistake. Me, "Hey, I think the invitation might have been printed wrong. It only has my name on it." Lily, "No, that's right." Me, "Wait, what? So Eric and Ben aren't invited." Lily, "It's not personal. We're just keeping it really small. Only people who are emotionally significant to me and Ryan." I thought I misheard. I asked what that meant, and she said, word for word, "I love Eric and Ben, but they're not really part of our relationship. You are. You've been there for me through everything. I want people who truly know me, not just people who are related by marriage or who happen to share blood through you." I was stunned. I said, "Lily, Eric is your brother-in-law. Ben is your nephew." She replied, "Yes, but they don't get me. It's going to be a really emotional ceremony, and I only want people who can connect with me on that level. I don't want to worry about a kid crying or someone's husband making small talk during my vows." I was speechless. I told her I wasn't comfortable going alone when my immediate family wasn't invited. She said I was overreacting and that it was just one day, and that she'd be hurt if I didn't come. I told her I'd think about it. When I told Eric, he laughed at first because he thought it was a joke. Then he got quiet and said, "You shouldn't go. That's not a family-only wedding if she's excluding her own nephew." I felt torn because I knew Lily would throw a fit if I didn't go, but I also felt gross about leaving my husband and son behind for something so exclusionary. I tried talking to my mom about it, hoping she'd talk sense into Lily. Big mistake. Mom said, "It's her wedding, Emily. Let her have what she wants." When I said I might not go, Mom accused me of making everything about myself and punishing Lily for having boundaries. I asked if she thought it was fair that Jake's girlfriend of 6 months got an invite, but my husband didn't, and she actually said, "Well, Ryan likes her, so that's different." That night, I texted Lily that I wouldn't be attending. I told her I love her and I hope the wedding is everything she wants, but I can't participate in something that excludes my family. She called me crying, saying I was selfish and trying to steal her spotlight by making this a statement. She said I was supposed to be her maid of honor, which, by the way, she never officially asked me until that moment, and now she has to rethink everything. She told me I'm breaking her heart and hung up. Since then, the family group chat has blown up. Mom says she understands both sides, but is disappointed in me for not just showing up and keeping the peace. Jake thinks Lily is being ridiculous and said he's embarrassed for her. Lily's fiancé texted me privately saying he supports Lily's choices but hopes I'll reconsider for the sake of family harmony. Now Lily isn't speaking to me at all. She's been posting passive-aggressive things on Instagram about fake support and people showing their true colors. Mom told me Lily is considering uninviting me entirely and replacing me with her best friend as maid of honor. Here's where I might be the jerk. My husband and I hosted a small barbecue last weekend for some friends and neighbors, and I posted pictures of Ben playing in the yard. My caption was something like, "Love my little family so much." Lily immediately commented, "Glad you have your perfect little family, since ours apparently isn't enough for you." Then she deleted it an hour later, but not before several relatives saw it. Now my aunt and cousins are messaging me saying I should just go to keep the peace, that you only get one sister, and that weddings make people crazy, just suck it up for a day. But honestly, I feel like this is bigger than just a wedding invite. To me, it feels like Lily is saying my husband and child don't count as family. Eric keeps telling me I did the right thing, that it's okay to have boundaries too. But I keep second-guessing myself because the guilt is eating at me. What if I really am making this into something it doesn't have to be? What if I should just go for a few hours, show my face, and move on? Still, every time I imagine sitting there watching her get married, knowing my husband and son weren't welcome, I feel sick. It feels like betraying my own family to appease someone else's ego. My mom keeps saying it's just one day, but to me it feels like Lily drew a line, and I'm being asked to stand on her side of it alone. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's family-only wedding because she didn't invite my husband or son. AITA for refusing to take care of my sister's baby after she temporarily moved in with me and never left. So, I, 29F, bought my first house last year. It's a small 2-bedroom home, nothing fancy, but I worked my butt off for years to make it happen. I'm proud of it, and I love having my own space after living in shared apartments and dealing with roommates who never cleaned up after themselves. My sister, Emily, 25F, has always been the more chaotic one in the family. She's fun, social, and spontaneous, but she's also the type to quit her job because it doesn't vibe, and then crash at someone's place until she finds something new. She's lived with our parents on and off since college, but last December, she announced she was pregnant. The father, Mark, was her on-again, off-again boyfriend who, to absolutely no one's surprise, ghosted her before the baby was even born. At first, I felt awful for her. I know being a single mom is hard, and even though Emily and I aren't super close, I wanted to be supportive. When she asked if she could stay with me just for a few weeks after the baby came so she could get on her feet, I said yes. My thought was that I could help her out while she recovered from childbirth and saved up some money for her own place. That was 8 months ago. In that time, Emily has done very little to change her situation. She sleeps in the guest room, which used to be my office, and her baby, my niece, Lily, cries constantly. I work from home, and I've had to start taking meetings from my car because it's the only quiet place I can find. At first, I didn't mind helping here and there. I'd babysit if Emily needed to take a shower or a nap. But slowly her, "Thanks, you're the best sister ever," turned into, "Can you watch Lily for a bit?" And a bit turned into all afternoon. She'd go out to get groceries and come back 4 hours later with a coffee and maybe one bag of baby wipes. It got to the point where I was the one up at night when Lily cried. Emily would either sleep through it or pretend to. I even caught her pretending once. She rolled over and shut her eyes tighter when I walked past her door after the baby monitor went off. I confronted her about it in June. I told her I didn't mind helping, but she needed to start looking for daycare options or at least apply for some kind of assistance. She got defensive and said, "You don't understand how hard it is to be a mom." I reminded her that I wasn't the mom, which didn't go over well. She cried, said she felt like a burden, and promised to step up. She didn't. By August, my house was a disaster. There were bottles in the sink, diapers in the trash, baby clothes everywhere. My grocery bill had doubled. I love my niece, but I was becoming resentful of both of them. Every time I mentioned Emily moving out, she'd say something like, "It's just not a good time right now," or "I don't want to disrupt Lily's routine." Last week, I finally snapped. It was 6 a.m., and I had a big virtual presentation at 8. Lily started screaming at 5:30, and Emily was nowhere to be found. I checked her room. Empty. Her car was gone. I tried calling her. No answer. So I fed and changed Lily, who wouldn't stop crying. I ended up giving my entire presentation with a baby strapped to me in a carrier because I couldn't get her settled down. Emily waltzed in around noon with a smoothie and said, "Thanks for watching her. I needed some me time." I lost it. I told her she couldn't keep using me as her built-in babysitter and that she needed to find somewhere else to live. She acted completely shocked and said, "You can't kick me and a baby out. We're family." I told her she could stay with mom and dad again or look into housing programs, but I couldn't do this anymore. She started crying, called me heartless, said I didn't care about her or Lily, and accused me of throwing them out like trash. She packed a few things and left to go to our parents' house that night, but she's been blowing up my phone ever since. My parents think I was too harsh. They said Emily is struggling and that it wouldn't have killed me to help a little longer. I reminded them that she could have gone there from the start, but mom said they don't have the space, which is funny because their house is bigger than mine. Now my mom keeps making passive-aggressive comments like, "Lily misses her aunt," or "Some people don't understand the meaning of family." My dad is trying to stay neutral, but hinted that I could have handled it with more compassion. I don't feel like I was cruel, but I also can't help but feel guilty. Emily doesn't have a steady job, and I know she's overwhelmed. But I feel like I've been taken advantage of for months, and every time I set a boundary, she acts like I'm the villain. To make it worse, Emily's been telling people I kicked a baby out, and now some of our extended family members are sending me messages saying how disappointed they are in me. One even wrote, "If you didn't want to help, you should have just said no from the beginning." But how was I supposed to know that a few weeks would turn into nearly a year? I've been going back and forth about whether I did the right thing. Part of me wonders if I should have waited until she had a real plan before kicking her out. But the other part of me knows that if I didn't draw the line, she never would have left. The quiet in my house now feels almost unsettling, but it's also peaceful. I can finally work without being interrupted, and I'm sleeping again. Still, every time I look at the empty guest room, I feel this weird mix of relief and guilt. So, AITA for refusing to keep taking care of my sister's baby and telling her to move out? Hey friends, If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to take in my sister and her kids after she lost her house. Even though I have plenty of room, I, 35F, live in a pretty big house that I bought 3 years ago. It's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath home in a quiet suburb. I worked my ass off to get it. I didn't have help from anyone. No inheritance, no rich boyfriend, no parental support. My parents were never good with money, and from the time I was 17, I was basically on my own. I put myself through college, worked 2 jobs, lived in crappy apartments, and sacrificed a lot to get where I am now. My older sister, Amy, 38F, has always been the opposite of me. She was the fun one, the social butterfly who was constantly going out, dating, spending money she didn't have, and jumping from one big idea to another. She's had at least 7 different jobs in the past decade, all of which ended with her quitting or being fired. She has 3 kids, 12M, 9F, 5M, with 2 different dads, neither of whom pay child support. She's been living paycheck to paycheck for years, and I've helped her out financially many times before. The last time was 2 years ago when she got evicted from her apartment. I want her $3,000 so she could get a new place. She promised to pay me back within 6 months. She never did. Every time I brought it up, she had an excuse: kids' expenses, car issues, medical bills, etc. Eventually, I let it go because it was clear I'd never see that money again. Fast forward to last month. Amy called me crying, saying her landlord was selling the house she was renting, and she had 30 days to move. She said she couldn't find anywhere affordable nearby and asked if she and the kids could move in with me for a little while. I asked what a little while meant, and she said just a few months, maybe 6 tops. I told her I needed to think about it. I talked to my boyfriend, 36M, who doesn't live with me but stays over a lot. He was honest and said he didn't think it was a good idea. He pointed out that Amy has a history of overstaying her welcome and taking advantage of people's kindness. He reminded me that I like my space and that having 3 kids running around would completely change my home environment. He also mentioned that it could easily turn into a year or more, given Amy's track record. I agreed with him, but I still felt guilty. Amy is my sister. Her kids are innocent in all of this. I didn't want them to end up homeless. So I called Amy back and said I couldn't have them live with me, but I would help her pay for a motel for a few weeks while she looked for something. I offered to give her $1,000 to help with deposits or moving expenses. She immediately got angry. She said I was selfish and that family helps family. She said I was choosing my comfort over her kids' safety. I told her I wasn't responsible for her life choices and that I've already helped her financially many times before. I said I'd be happy to support her in finding a more stable solution, but I couldn't have her move in. That turned into a full-blown argument. She accused me of thinking I was better than her because I have money. She said I was punishing her kids for her mistakes. When I stayed firm, she hung up on me. Since then, the situation has exploded within the family. My mom called me and said she can't believe I'd let my sister and her kids struggle when I have so much space. For context, my parents live in a 2-bedroom apartment, so they don't have room for Amy either. Mom said, "You have 4 bedrooms and live alone. How hard could it be?" I told her that the house I bought is my sanctuary, my peace, and I'm not willing to disrupt that indefinitely. Now Amy and her kids are staying at a friend's house, and apparently, it's crowded and uncomfortable. My mom keeps sending me guilt-trippy texts like, "Your nephews miss you," and "Remember when you 2 used to share everything?" Even my aunt called to say I was being cold-hearted. My boyfriend says I did the right thing. He thinks Amy would have stayed far longer than 6 months and that I'd end up supporting her financially again. He reminded me that I've worked hard to build boundaries and that breaking them now would just reinforce Amy's dependence. But the guilt is eating at me. I keep picturing my niece and nephews trying to do homework in a cramped space, not having stability, and wondering why their aunt won't help. Part of me wants to cave, but another part of me knows it'll just repeat the same cycle. Amy has always relied on other people to bail her out instead of taking responsibility. To make it worse, last week Amy posted something on Facebook that felt clearly aimed at me. It said, "Funny how some people forget where they came from once they get a little money." A few of her friends commented supportive things like, "You'll find out who truly cares about you when times get hard." I didn't respond, but seeing that hurt. I've tried to justify it by reminding myself that I offered her money and that she turned it down. I even looked up rental listings in her area and sent her a few affordable options. She didn't reply. Then yesterday, she texted me again saying, "We're out of options. The kids are tired. Please, just until Christmas." It broke my heart, but I still said no. I told her I couldn't do it and that I hoped she could find something soon. She sent me a single message back. "Wow, got it. Now my whole family is acting like I'm the villain." My mom hasn't spoken to me in a week. Amy has blocked me on everything. Even one of my cousins messaged me saying, "You'll regret this when you realize family is all you have." I don't think I'm wrong for wanting to protect my peace and my home. But at the same time, I feel like a horrible person for not opening my doors to family in need. I keep going back and forth, wondering if I'm being reasonable or if I've just turned into someone selfish and cold without realizing it. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister and her kids move in, even though I have space and could afford it. AITA for refusing to give my sister's expensive wedding gift to her new in-laws after she asked me to. This whole situation has caused a massive rift in my family, and honestly, I'm still trying to figure out if I'm the asshole or if my sister and her new in-laws are just being unreasonable. I, 29F, have always been close with my sister, 32F. We grew up in a middle-class family, and while we didn't have a lot of money, our parents always stressed the importance of being thoughtful rather than extravagant. My sister recently got married, and I wanted to give her something really special and meaningful for her wedding. After months of saving, I finally managed to buy a vintage designer handbag that she had been obsessing over for years. It was a limited edition, well cared for, and expensive, around $2,500. It felt like the perfect gift, something that showed how well I know her and that she could treasure forever. Now, here's where it gets messy. A few days after the wedding, my sister called me out of the blue and told me that her in-laws were asking to borrow the handbag for a family event they were hosting. I was confused but said okay, assuming it would be returned quickly. Then the request changed. They wanted to keep it for a while to show off during the event because apparently the designer handbag would make their family look better in photos and fit with the aesthetic of their gathering. I was skeptical, but again said okay, trusting my sister. After a week, the handbag still hadn't been returned. When I asked my sister about it, she said her in-laws were now insisting on keeping it permanently because it's such a beautiful and valuable piece it should stay with the family, and that I should just consider it a gift for both of them. I was stunned and told her that the handbag was my gift to her alone, not to them, and that I wasn't okay with them keeping it. My sister then said that since it was her wedding gift, it technically belonged to her, and she could do what she wanted with it. Fair enough, but she asked me to hand it over to her in-laws directly since she was too busy and wanted me to deliver it. I refused. I told her the handbag was a gift for her and not for her in-laws, and if she wanted to give it to them, that was her choice, but I wasn't going to facilitate handing over my gift to other people without my consent. She got upset, saying I was being petty and selfish and that I was ruining family harmony over a handbag. She said it was just a thing and that I was making it a bigger deal than it needed to be. Then the real kicker, her in-laws reached out to me directly via a group chat, which I had never been part of before, and started pressuring me to do the right thing and hand over the handbag. They claimed that because my sister was married into their family, all gifts to her were now family gifts and should be shared. They even implied that if I didn't comply, it would cause tension during future family events and that I was being ungrateful for the close relationship our families were building. I told them that no, the handbag was a personal gift to my sister and that I did not consent to giving it to anyone else. I also explained that I worked hard to get that gift and that it was meant to celebrate my sister, not to be passed around like some kind of trophy. They accused me of being immature and selfish, and my sister sided with them. Since then, my sister has barely spoken to me, and my parents are caught in the middle. They think I'm overreacting, but also don't want to take sides too strongly. The in-laws have made it clear they're not happy with me, and I've been excluded from family gatherings since the wedding. It's been a month, and the handbag is still with them. I honestly feel like I'm in the right here. The gift was for my sister, not her in-laws. If she wants to give it to them, that's her prerogative, but I'm not going to hand over something I personally bought for her to someone else, especially under pressure. I'm worried I've permanently damaged my relationship with my sister and her new family over this, but I don't think I should just give in. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to hand over my sister's expensive wedding gift to her in-laws, even though she asked me to. AITA for telling my sister that she can't bring her new boyfriend to our family reunion after what he did at Thanksgiving. So this all started a couple of months ago, and honestly, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. I, 29F, come from a pretty tight-knit family that always prioritizes holidays and gatherings. Every year, we do a big family reunion in early August, and it's something everyone looks forward to: cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, the whole shebang. We rent a big cabin by a lake, have tons of food, games, and just spend a few days catching up and relaxing. It's become a tradition over the past decade or so, and my parents usually host it, but it's really a group effort. My sister, Emma, 26F, has always been part of these reunions, though sometimes she can be a bit difficult. She's always been a little sensitive and prone to drama, but we love her. Last Thanksgiving, she showed up with this new boyfriend, Jake. Jake is about 30, and I'll be honest, when I met him initially, I thought he seemed nice enough, quiet, polite, not overbearing or anything. But things changed fast. During Thanksgiving dinner, we were all sitting around the table, about 15 of us, and everything was going fine. Then, out of nowhere, Jake got into a really heated political debate with one of our cousins, Mike. Normally, politics are off limits at these family gatherings, and everyone knew it. But Jake just couldn't keep his mouth shut. He started raising his voice, saying some pretty harsh things, basically accusing Mike of being ignorant and hateful. Things escalated to the point that my aunt started crying and my uncle got up and left the room. We all tried to calm things down, but Jake wasn't having it. He basically threw a fit, slammed his fork down, and stormed out of the room. Emma followed him out, and that was that for the rest of the evening. It was so awkward that we just stopped the dinner early, and everyone kind of dispersed. My parents were furious because this wasn't the first time Emma's boyfriend caused drama at a family event. Last summer, at a smaller get-together, Jake had an argument with my dad over music taste, which seemed silly but still set the mood for tension. After Thanksgiving, I had a long talk with Emma about Jake's behavior. I told her that if she wanted to bring him to the family reunion in August, he needed to understand that this is a time for everyone to get along, not pick fights or cause drama. Emma promised she'd talk to him and make sure it wouldn't happen again. I really wanted to believe her because I love my sister and want her to be happy, but something about Jake's attitude always made me uneasy. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, the family reunion was approaching, and Emma reached out to say she was bringing Jake. I asked her to have a serious talk with him about keeping the peace and not stirring up conflict. She said she did, and that Jake understood and would be on his best behavior. I reluctantly accepted it. The reunion started out great. Everyone was having a good time, playing volleyball, swimming, laughing, the usual. Then, on the second day, Jake once again found a way to spark trouble. This time, it was with my cousin Sarah. Sarah had brought her dog, and Jake apparently doesn't like dogs. At one point, he loudly complained that the dog was ruining the perfect environment, and that people who bring pets to events like this are selfish and irresponsible. Sarah was visibly upset, and other family members tried to defend her, but Jake just doubled down. Later that evening, Jake went even further by loudly criticizing my mom's cooking, calling the food bland and uninspired, right in front of everyone. My mom, who worked really hard to prepare all the dishes, was crushed. Several people tried to brush it off, but the mood had definitely soured. Emma apologized repeatedly, but also got defensive, saying that Jake just has strong opinions and doesn't mean anything by it. The final straw came on the last night. We were sitting around the campfire sharing stories and jokes, trying to lighten the mood. Jake decided to launch into a rant about how family gatherings like this are stupid and waste of time, which felt like a slap in the face after everything my parents and others did to organize the reunion. Some people got quiet, and I could see my dad was getting visibly annoyed. After Jake went to bed, I pulled Emma aside and told her that I didn't think it was a good idea for Jake to come to any future family events. I told her that it's not just about opinions or disagreements, but about respect and knowing when to keep things civil. Emma got really upset and said I was being unfair and judgmental, that Jake was just misunderstood and needed more chances. The next day, I told my parents and a few other family members what I thought, and everyone agreed that Jake's behavior had been unacceptable. My mom said she didn't want to feel hurt or disrespected in her own home. My dad mentioned that if Emma insisted on bringing Jake again, he might skip the reunion entirely next year. Emma then messaged me, saying that if I kept blocking Jake from the family reunion, it would destroy our relationship and that I was being controlling. She even said that maybe she'd just stop coming altogether if Jake wasn't welcome. Honestly, I feel stuck. On one hand, I want my sister to be part of the family and to come to these gatherings, but on the other hand, I don't want to have to put up with Jake's disrespectful behavior and constant drama. So AITA for telling my sister that Jake can't come to the family reunion next year after everything he did at Thanksgiving and the reunion itself. I feel like it's about protecting the family's peace, but I don't want to be seen as the bad guy either. What do you think? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she insulted my wife and accused me of ruining her special day? This has been a really rough situation, and I'm still trying to process everything. I'm 33, married to my wife, Jenna, for 5 years now. We have a great relationship, and we've been through a lot together. My younger sister, Sarah, is 28 and has always been the golden child in our family. Growing up, it felt like she got all the attention, while I was just the reliable older brother who was expected to support her. I never minded too much because I cared about her, but over the years, the favoritism became more obvious and, frankly, exhausting. Sarah got engaged about a year ago, and from the start, it was clear that this wedding was going to be all about her, and not much else mattered. She's always been controlling and a bit dramatic, but I thought it was just typical wedding stress. I try to stay out of the way and help when asked. About 6 months ago, Sarah and her fiancé started planning the wedding with their parents. They decided to have a large, expensive ceremony at a fancy venue. They asked me to be the best man, which I was happy to do. Jenna wasn't asked to be a bridesmaid, and honestly, no one really included her much in the planning. At first, I didn't think much of it because she's not super into weddings and didn't mind being on the sidelines. But over the next few months, there were subtle digs at Jenna. Sarah made comments about how Jenna wasn't fun enough or exciting like some of the bridesmaids. She said Jenna wasn't dressing up enough for the events and sometimes made jokes about Jenna being boring. Jenna tried to brush it off, but it started to get to her. The real breaking point happened at the rehearsal dinner. Jenna wore a simple but elegant dress that she felt comfortable in. Sarah, who had been drinking, loudly commented that Jenna looked like she just rolled out of bed and that she was ruining the vibe. Everyone at the table heard, and there was an uncomfortable silence. I stood up for Jenna and told Sarah it wasn't okay to talk about my wife like that. Sarah snapped back, saying I was overreacting and that I was just trying to ruin her special day by making a big deal out of it. She accused me of being jealous of her and trying to steal the spotlight. The argument escalated quickly, and eventually, Sarah told me that if I kept defending Jenna, I wouldn't be part of the wedding day at all. I told her that I couldn't just stand by while she insulted my wife. After the dinner, I told Jenna I wasn't sure I wanted to be best man anymore if it meant being in the middle of all this drama. Sarah's parents called me the next day and said I was overreacting and needed to lighten up and let Sarah have her moment. I told them I respected their daughter, but I also couldn't support behavior that was disrespectful to my wife. Since then, Sarah has been cold towards me. She sent a group message to our family saying that I was being selfish and that I had ruined her wedding experience. She said I was choosing Jenna over family and that she hoped I would regret it. 2 weeks ago, I decided to talk to Sarah one last time. I told her I was willing to come to the wedding if she apologized to Jenna and agreed to treat her with respect. Sarah refused and said I was the one causing problems. I then told Sarah that I would not attend the wedding if she didn't apologize. I haven't spoken to her since. Our parents are caught in the middle and have asked me to reconsider, but I can't bring myself to go to a celebration where my wife will be disrespected and my sister refuses to own her behavior. My family is divided. Some say I'm overreacting and ruining what should be a happy occasion. Others say I'm right to stand up for my wife and not enable Sarah's behavior. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she insulted my wife and accused me of ruining her special day. AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay at my house after he got kicked out of his own place, even though she said I was being selfish and cruel. So, here's the situation. I, 32M, live alone in a fairly small but comfortable 2-bedroom apartment in a decent part of town. I work a demanding job that requires a lot of focus and time. So, my home is basically my sanctuary. I'm generally quiet and private, and I don't like having guests over for long periods. I'm fine with occasional visitors, but I'm definitely not someone who enjoys hosting anyone for weeks or months on end. My younger sister, Anna, 27F, has been dating a guy named Matt for about a year. Matt is complicated. He has a lot of issues with employment, finances, and some bad habits he's trying to get under control. Anna has been super supportive and invested in helping him get back on his feet. I don't hate Matt. I just don't think he's the best fit for a long-term relationship and definitely not someone I want around my home. A few weeks ago, Matt got kicked out of his apartment because he fell behind on rent. Apparently, he'd been paying sporadically and the landlord finally lost patience. Anna asked if he could crash at my place temporarily while they figure out a new place together. She said it would only be for a few days and that she'd make sure he was respectful and not a burden. I was hesitant but tried to be supportive. I told her I wasn't thrilled about it, but if it was just for a short time, I could manage. She promised it would be brief. Matt came over with just a bag and a couple of clothes. At first, it seemed fine. He was quiet, kept to himself mostly, and didn't cause much disruption. But then the days stretched into a week. And then 2. And Matt wasn't really trying to look for a new place or a job seriously. He was mostly couch surfing, playing video games on my TV, and generally being a drain on my energy. I work crazy hours and come home exhausted. Having him around added stress, and I couldn't unwind properly. I talked to Anna again and told her I thought Matt should seriously get out and take responsibility. I said I couldn't host him anymore because it was interfering with my work and my peace of mind. Anna got defensive and accused me of being selfish and cruel. She said Matt was going through a tough time and family should support each other. She reminded me of times when she'd helped me in the past and said I owed her. I explained that I'm not against helping, but I have limits. I'm not in a position to be a long-term host and caretaker for someone who isn't actively trying to improve their situation. She said Matt was trying, but honestly, from what I've seen, he's not really motivated. Anna got upset and said I didn't care about her or her relationship. Matt overheard some of this and started to complain about how unwelcoming I was being. He said he felt like a guest in my home and that I was cold and unkind. I tried to stay calm and told him he needed to find his own place and I couldn't accommodate him anymore. Anna insisted I was ruining things and threatened to not visit me anymore if I didn't relent. I told her I wasn't going to let her manipulate me. I even offered to help them financially to get Matt into a new apartment if they wanted, but I wasn't going to sacrifice my own mental health and living space. The situation has been tense ever since. Anna barely talks to me, and Matt obviously isn't coming back to my place. My parents are kind of caught in the middle. They think I should be more patient, but also agree that Matt needs to step up. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay at my place longer than a few days when he got kicked out, even though she said I was being selfish and cruel. AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend move in after she ditched him and then demanding she find a place for herself instead. This whole situation has spiraled out of control, and I'm honestly not sure if I'm the asshole or if my family is just being unfair. I'm 32F, and I've always been the responsible older sibling. My sister, 28F, has had a very different life path. More impulsive, less stable jobs, and a tendency to burn bridges with people around her. She's been dating her current boyfriend, Dan, 30M, for about 2 years. The reason I'm posting this is because I just had a huge fallout with my sister, and it's tearing apart our entire family dynamic. Here's the backstory. About 2 months ago, my sister got fed up with Dan after some petty fights. She told him to leave their apartment because she needed space and claimed she wanted to focus on herself. The problem is they had signed the lease together, and Dan was stuck paying rent on his own while she was nowhere to be found. Dan called me, upset and worried about his living situation. I've never really liked Dan. I found him lazy and kind of a freeloader from the start. But since my sister had essentially abandoned him, I felt a little bad. Dan asked if he could stay at my place temporarily while he figured things out. I agreed, but with conditions. My place is a small 2-bedroom apartment, and I don't have room for anyone to move in permanently. I told Dan that he could stay for a couple of weeks, but needed to have a plan to get his own place. He seemed grateful and agreed. Here's where it gets complicated. My sister found out I was letting Dan stay and flipped out. She accused me of betraying her by helping her ex and called me a hypocrite for not supporting her decision to move on. She started messaging me nonstop, demanding I kick Dan out immediately, saying it was her apartment and I had no right to interfere. I told her that since she wasn't living there and had abandoned the lease, Dan had every right to stay temporarily while paying his share. Plus, I was just trying to be humane. I even offered to help her find a new place if she wanted, but she refused and said she'd crash with friends. Then, out of nowhere, she dropped the bombshell that she wanted to move back in herself, implying that I should make room for her too. I explained that my apartment couldn't accommodate her as well as Dan, and that she needed to find her own place since she'd willingly left the shared lease. This escalated quickly. My parents got involved after my sister called them crying, and suddenly the whole family was pressuring me to make things right by kicking Dan out and letting my sister move in. I refused. I told them the lease was in Dan's name now because my sister abandoned it, and it wasn't fair for me to displace him after he'd been stuck in limbo. I also reminded them that I'm not obligated to make room for anyone, especially when it's such a sudden and inconvenient request. The family split into 2 camps. Some think I'm being harsh and should help my sister. Others agree with me that I'm not responsible for fixing her mistakes. Since then, my sister has cut off contact with me and is refusing to communicate. Dan is still living with me temporarily, but looking for his own place. I'm feeling caught in the middle and guilty for not being able to keep everyone happy. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to kick out my sister's ex and make room for her in my apartment after she abandoned the lease and left him to deal with rent on his own? Or should I have just let her move in and figure out the rest later? I don't want to lose my sister over this, but I also don't think I should be punished for trying to help the person who's currently in a tough spot. What would you do if you were me? AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her new boyfriend to my wedding, even though he's causing a huge family fight? I, 29F, am getting married in about 2 months. This has been a long time coming for me and my fiancée, 30M, and we've been planning the wedding for over a year. It's going to be a relatively small, intimate affair, about 60 people, mostly close family and friends. My sister, 26F, has always been a bit dramatic and impulsive, but I love her. Our relationship has had its ups and downs, but we've always managed to come back to a good place. About 3 months ago, my sister started dating someone new. He's about 28, and from what I initially gathered, seemed nice enough. I hadn't met him until recently, when she insisted she wanted me to meet him before the wedding. I was okay with that, because I wanted to be cordial and meet the person who would be important in her life. When I finally met him, though, I started feeling uneasy. The guy, let's call him Jake, was charming on the surface, but I quickly noticed some red flags. He was a bit too controlling with my sister, constantly interrupting her and making snide comments in a joking manner that didn't feel like jokes. At dinner, he dominated conversations, and when my sister tried to speak about herself, he'd cut her off or talk over her. I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, because maybe he was nervous meeting me. However, after a few encounters, I learned from other family members and mutual friends that Jake has a history of being emotionally manipulative and creating drama wherever he goes. Some of my sister's friends had expressed concern, and even my mom had warned me to be cautious. When I confronted my sister about these concerns, she got defensive and accused me of being judgmental and trying to interfere in her life. She insisted that Jake was a great guy and that I was just being unfair. Here's the crux of the problem. My sister wants to bring Jake to the wedding, and I absolutely do not want him there. I've made it very clear to her that I'm uncomfortable having him at the event. My fiancé supports me on this, saying that the wedding is about us and the people who genuinely support our relationship and well-being. He thinks Jake could bring unnecessary drama and tension, which I agree with. My sister, however, has taken this as a personal attack. She says that if Jake isn't invited, she won't come to the wedding at all. She's been texting me nonstop, threatening to cut me out of her life and saying that I'm being controlling and selfish. Our parents have also gotten involved. They think I'm being harsh and that I should let her bring Jake, even if I don't like him, because it's her big moment too. My mom says family is about compromise, and this seems like a small ask. I'm torn. I want my sister to be there because I love her, but I don't want to jeopardize the wedding atmosphere or bring in someone who might ruin it for me, my fiancé, or our guests. I considered a few compromises, allowing her to bring Jake, but asking him to be on his best behavior, or inviting him but making clear boundaries. She's rejected all of these ideas, saying it's all or nothing. At this point, the tension has gotten so bad that it's causing a rift in the family. My parents are caught in the middle, my sister won't talk to me without bringing up Jake, and I'm worried about what the wedding day will look like if this continues. Am I the asshole for refusing to let my sister bring her boyfriend to the wedding? Or should I just let it go and invite him for the sake of family harmony? Additional context. I have told my sister that if she comes without Jake, I will be over the moon. I've even offered to help her with travel expenses and accommodation to make sure she can attend comfortably. My fiancé and I have put a lot of thought into the guest list, and we're intentionally keeping it small to avoid drama and have a stress-free day. Jake has never met most of our family and has been quite vocal about not wanting to put on a fake smile at the wedding, which makes me think he might cause a scene. I'm at my wit's end. I want my sister at the wedding, but without the drama that Jake could bring. What should I do? Am I wrong for drawing this line? AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé attend my wedding because of his behavior toward my family? This is going to be a bit of a long story, so please bear with me. I, 29F, am engaged to my boyfriend, Matt, 30M. We've been together for almost 6 years and have planned a wedding for next summer. My family is super important to me, and from the start, Matt has gotten along really well with them. We're all close, and I wanted the wedding to be a happy and positive experience for everyone involved. My sister, Sarah, 27F, got engaged about a year ago to a guy named Jake, 28M. At first, I liked Jake. He seemed funny and charming, and he made Sarah happy, so I thought that was all that mattered. But over the past year, I've noticed some concerning things about Jake's behavior, especially toward my family. It started small, little snide remarks at family dinners, dismissive comments when my mom would ask him questions about his job or interests, and a tendency to make jokes that felt borderline offensive or inappropriate. I brushed it off at first because I didn't want to cause drama, but then it escalated. Last Thanksgiving, things came to a head. We were all gathered at my parents' house, and Jake spent the entire night making jokes about how overbearing my mom is. He mocked the way she talks, and even joked about her weight. It was humiliating to watch, and worse, no one really stood up to him because my family is generally conflict-averse and tries to keep the peace. Sarah didn't say anything either, which hurt me because I expected her to have my back. After that, I spoke privately with Sarah and told her how uncomfortable Jake's behavior was making everyone feel, especially my mom. Sarah shrugged it off, saying Jake was just joking and that I was being too sensitive. She insisted Jake's family was more important to her now, which stung because I've always been the sister who was there for her through everything. Fast forward to a few months ago, Matt and I started officially planning the wedding guest list. Naturally, my family and closest friends were invited. I sent the list to Sarah, assuming she would want to bring Jake along since they're engaged and planning their own wedding. That's when she dropped the bomb on me. She said Jake didn't want to attend our wedding because he didn't feel welcomed and thought my family was too fake and judgmental. She asked me if I could try to smooth things over because Jake really wanted to be there. I was stunned. Not only had Jake been disrespectful and rude to my family, but now he was playing the victim and blaming them. I told Sarah I wasn't comfortable inviting someone who disrespected my family, and that if Jake wanted to come, he needed to sincerely apologize and change his attitude first. Sarah flipped out. She accused me of being controlling and said I was trying to sabotage their relationship. She claimed that because it's my wedding, I should just get over it and let Jake come. I refused. I told her that my wedding was a day to celebrate love and family, and I wasn't going to have someone there who had made my family miserable for the last year. Sarah hasn't spoken to me since. A few days ago, I found out from a mutual friend that Sarah and Jake are now planning to not attend my wedding at all unless Jake is invited. They're also spreading the word to other family members that I'm being unreasonable and that Sarah is the victim here. This has caused some tension in the family, with a few relatives trying to convince me to reconsider for the sake of peace. Matt is supportive of my decision, but also worried that this might cause a permanent rift with my sister. I love Sarah, but I'm torn because I don't want to give in to what feels like toxic behavior from her fiancé, nor do I want to have someone at my wedding who openly disrespects my family. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to invite my sister's fiancé to my wedding because of his behavior? Or should I just let it go for the sake of family unity? Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.